Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us at Life Community for this season of Life Groups. We're going to be spending 5 weeks breaking down Mark Clark's book, The Problem of Life. In here, he's talking about how we can accomplish human flourishing. He addresses questions of origin, of purpose, even of pain and suffering and death. So I hope that you're willing to dive in, ask good questions, and be honest with where you're at. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us again this week. Last week, Evan talked to us about the problem of purpose. He talked to us about how God wired us with certain personalities and skills so that we can be exactly who we are on this earth at exactly this moment in our culture, serving God. This is intentional, not accidental. We were shaped by our Creator, and Mark Clark actually teaches SHAPE as an acronym. It stands for spiritual gifts, heart, abilities, personality, and experiences. God shapes us with these things so that we can uniquely live for Him. So, in the last few weeks, we've talked through hopefully some encouraging ideas and some inspiring ideas, our origin and how God breathes value into us because He made us in His image. We've talked about identity and purpose and how that comes from God. It's not something we have to create for ourselves. We've talked about the hope of eternity and how that helps us endure suffering and pain. And so today we end with the problem of death, because we all know how easy it is to lose sight of things like our purpose or even eternity. We get lost in daily routines, in the demands of life, in bills and responsibilities, but without fail, one thing always makes us stop and reconsider. And that's coming face to face with death. As a Christian, as somebody with a soul who believes in eternity, we have to let the reality of death shape the way that we live. So you might be willing to die for your faith, but are you willing to live for it? We're going to dive into the word, but first let's stop and start our conversation here. We all know that one day our time on earth will come to an end. But being Christians and believing in eternity, we also know that this is just our practice run for eternity. One day, God is going to make everything new. The broken will be healed. We will get to be in a perfect relationship with the God who designed us. And that reality should be shaping how we live now, not for ourselves, but for the God who made us. Our lives are not at our disposal. They are gifts from our Creator, and one day we're going to have to stand before Him and give an account for the way we used the life that He gave us. We are meant to use this time to help bring heaven to earth now. Mark Clark uses the phrase, re-enchant the world. And the idea is that as Christians, we have access to a God that others don't even know about yet. We can talk to Him, we can hear from Him. And so we have certain gifts that we can use to make this world a better place. We have a responsibility within our circles of influence, and that can look like explicitly sharing the gospel, but also witnessing through our character, doing work in an ethical way, and the way that we give or practice forgiveness and seek restored relationships. But we can also, before we ever even walk into a room, say, okay, God, who in here needs to hear from you today? Tell me what to say to them. And it's in these ways that we re-enchant the world. We obey the God who gave us this life. And we can do that with boldness. Obviously, it feels awkward in a culture who doesn't believe in God to walk into a room on God's behalf, but that is our role as Christians. And we can do that knowing there's more to life than we can see. Our existence extends beyond right now. So there's more for our role than just this present moment. Mark Clark also says, if you think being a Christian is boring, you're doing it wrong. God gave you talents and He expects you to use them. And there's a lot of excitement that we can gain when we actually are living that out. Jesus gives a parable about this in Matthew 25. He is explaining the gifts that we get from God, the time we have on earth, and then the accountability that God will hold us to when we meet Him in eternity. So let's read some of this together. We'll start in Matthew chapter 25, verses 14 through 16. Again, it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. To one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, and to another 1 bag, each according to his ability. Then he went on his journey. The man who had received 5 bags of gold went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 bags more. Now, to summarize what happens next, the man with 2 bags also doubles it, but the man with 1 basically hides it and does nothing with it. So the master eventually comes back, and he's holding each of these men accountable for what they did with what they were given. And to each of the ones who doubled what they had been given, this was the response. His master replied, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness." But to the one who did nothing, this was the response. "You wicked and lazy servant. Throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." There will be a day when you and I stand before our designer, and He will want to know what we did with what He gave us. Did we spend our lives chasing value or seeking meaning and purpose in places it was never meant to be found? Or did we live from our God-given value, our God-ordained purpose and meaning, re-enchanting the world on God's behalf? The reality of death has to shape how we live. Let's talk about that. Death is a guarantee, but so is eternity. And because death isn't our ultimate end, that can change how we live right now. Everything that we've talked about these last 5 weeks has really been intertwined. Our origins impact our identity, which gives us purpose. It helps us walk through pain with eternity in mind. So, what do we do with all of this? I'm not going to know exactly who you are and where you work and who's in your circle, but God does. So ask the Holy Spirit to stir within you, reshaping how you approach your life this week and moving forward. And I want everyone to do this because maybe you're 25 and you're figuring out what the rest of your life is going to look like. You can move forward knowing that God cares more about who you are and how you bring heaven to earth right now than about exactly what job you have, as long as you're being obedient to Him. If you're retired and you're entering this final quarter of your life, do so knowing that God is not done with you. Let this last quarter of your life be the best and strongest one yet. Show younger Christians like me what it looks like to live with eternity in mind. Disciple us and show us how to re-enchant the world. We need you. Don't quit now. For all of us, let's take encouragement from what Paul writes to the Galatians in Galatians 6:9. He says, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." And to close out this series, I want to give you one of my favorite verses. It's Hebrews 6:10. God is not unjust. He will not forget your work and the love you have shown him as you have helped his people and continue to help them. This verse reminds me that God sees what nobody else does. He knows what no one else ever will. So when we're living out our purpose, even if it means doing things that never receive thanks, never get praised, never are known by anyone else, that's okay. This isn't about me building a name for myself. It's not about us creating purpose and meaning for our own lives. When we live from a place of God-given value and purpose, we can work hard at all things, knowing He sees and He won't forget. So in light of eternity, before your physical death comes, are you willing to live for your faith? Thank you again for joining us for this season of Life Groups, talking through Mark Clark's book, The Problem of Life. I hope that talking through these different ideas has really helped you rethink the way you're approaching your life. And I hope that you can walk confidently forward, knowing that you have value, you have purpose, and you can live into a meaning that is bigger than you and that lasts beyond just right now. We'll see you next time.